Hello out there, casual fanatics. Jeremy here, and this is neither a Pokemon Fan Theories video, nor is it a fun 5e builds. Instead, I wanted to do something special. I honestly didn't have any better ideas for this week, and with the way work has been lately with me being really busy, I've decided to skew doing a fun 5e builds or a Pokemon Fan Theories video because it's a new year. It's 2016, and of course, with the new year comes new beginnings. So, what I wanted to do here was I wanted to take y'all back to the beginning, so to speak. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you basically how I built my first D&D characters. And since I started out with D&D 4th edition, do not start wars in the comments. I will end you. Since I started with D&D 4th edition, that means, well, the easiest way to build it really is through one of the two character builders, either the offline one that gets passed around through torrent sites these days, although that's not really a legitimate way to get it, and the D&D Insider online builder, which you see down there. So I'm going to take you through the online builder because that's the one that I have access to, and show you basically how to build a first level D&D 4e character. So something a little different to start the year with. I don't know quite how I'm going to do it, but or what I'm going to build, but we'll figure it out as we go along. Okay, so as you can see, when you're logged into D&D Insider and you're logged into the character builder specifically, which by the way uses Silverlight, so if you're on Windows 10, you're probably going to be wanting to use Internet Explorer, not Edge, Internet Explorer. There's a difference there, and yes, Windows 10 has both, to be able to access it. How this works on a Mac machine, I'm not entirely certain, but you have several things that you can do here. You can either build a quick D&D Essentials character, which is kind of the 4.5 build, kind of a stripped down version of 4E that they had for encounters. And while technically that's how I started, I wanted to actually build like a full 4E character instead, with all the stuff that is available out there, all the dungeon material, all the supplements. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building a custom character. You can also load previous D&D characters that you've built if you want to level them up, something I've had to do many times for my Roll20 campaigns that I'm a part of. In this case, though, we are just going to build us up a custom. So here you've actually got 4 different things that you can do, 4 different ways that you can select to start your character. You can start with a D&D homebrew campaign, and that opens up a wide variety of capabilities. You can basically pick from anything. If your campaign setting is homebrew, then you might pick that. That is also what you might want to pick if you're using 4E's default setting, which is actually not the Forgotten Realms. It's a different realm referred to as Points of Light, if I remember correctly. You can also create a Forgotten Realms character if you're so inclined. You can build a character from the world of Eberron, which was introduced in 3.5. Introduces such fun things like the Warforged race. Or, if you want to live in a world that's less magically oriented and is a little more brutal, you can choose the Dark Sun setting, which is kind of an after the end setting where magic is verboten because magicians fucked up all the things. So that we have the most widespread, kind of the widest we're going to go ahead and pick a home campaign. You can also select your starting level, including all the way up to level 30. For those of you who don't play 4E, levels 1 through 10 are called the heroic tier. It's where basically you're building up a reputation and learning your craft. 11 through 20 are the Paragon tier, where you're becoming really known and famous for what you do when you're fighting higher level monsters. And then 21 to 30, which is the level cap, is called the Epic tier. And that's basically where you are either virtually or in some cases literally a demigod running around doing the business of the gods, or even outright coming in opposition with them. So for our purposes, we're just going to build a basic level 1 character. So we picked a homebrew level 1 character. And now here's the fun part. You get to choose your class first. Now I know old school people are probably going, picking a class before your stats, are you nuts? I know. And actually, if you want, you can go along this line and you can skip ahead to getting your abilities first and figuring out what class that you fit in from there. If you want to, you can select your race first and pick a class that goes along their particular bonuses. I tend to go class first myself, honestly. I try to think about what it is I'm trying to build and work with it from there. That's just a little insight into my thought process of things. So let's look through all the different classes. Now, in 4E, classes are separated by various different roles. You have the controller role, which is basically the ones that affect the field and the monsters. You have the defender roles, who are the ones designed to be damage sponges, the ones who are basically the front line to help keep the other characters safe while getting in there and dealing damage up front and center. Of course, you do have hybrid classes where you can combine different roles, but that's not technically considered a role. That's just kind of an extra thing. You have the leader classes, which are the ones that basically facilitate the other classes to do what they need to do, maybe help keep them alive by healing or boosts or such like that, but also have some pretty good combat capabilities themselves. And then you have the striker classes, which are the ones designed for DPS, so to speak. The ones that are designed to do the most damage in the least amount of time. And fun fact, my former beloved class, one that I've worked as, Warlock, is actually here under the Striker under the Striker class, though truth be told, we found that our Ranger was much better at dealing damage. So I haven't really put any thought as to what kind of class that I wanted to play for this. I'm just kind of going through here, much like I would most of the time that I go to create characters, which is just basically what do I need and what sings to me at that particular moment. So in the vein of that, let's imagine that we're in a group that's pretty striker heavy, maybe has a leader, but they really need someone to help kind of balance out the party, kind of keep the battlefield in order. Now they have a paladin as the leader, so they already have divine power on the field. So let me just make sure I classified the paladin correctly. I mean, what's a paladin, right? Okay, so paladins are strikers. So for one of their strikers, they have a paladin, and for their leader character, they have a cleric. So they're pretty well covered as far as divine power comes. So with that in mind, we're probably not going to want to play an invoker. Um, they had also amongst their strikers, they have a warlock. So for their warlock, again, they've got magic pretty well covered down. So we may not want to do a wizard. Although there is also a controller version of the warlock if you're so choose. So really what we're looking at is going to be perhaps a druid to get some primal energy in there, or a psionic. Um, and again, assuming that maybe they have a ranger in there, we might not want to play another ranger. Although having multiples of a character type isn't really that big of a deal. But if you really want to balance out the party, you might want to go with something non-magical if they're magic heavy, or non-divine if they're divine heavy. So, just thought. In this case, I think we are going to go with a psionic, psychic powered controller. All right. Now in 4E, you have different ways that you can subdivide your class. You can select optional builds, and you can also customize within that class to get at kind of what you're looking for. I actually like looking at these builds because it gives me an idea of what kind of character that I want. When it comes to psychic powers, I've always been more partial, conceptually at least, to telekinesis. Um, you can create shaper scions, which are kind of energy manipulation kind of scions and psionic conjurers. Or you can be telepathic scions that mostly affect the mind. I'm really, when it comes to the idea of psionic powers, I'm more of a telekinesis kind of person. If I had a superpower, I really would prefer it to be telekinesis because I kind of like the idea of being able to move things around without having to touch them. Um, Over in the right hand side, it shows, if you read it carefully, it actually tells you what ability scores that you want to prioritize. And in this case, for a telekinetic scion, you want to have intelligence be the top with wisdom as the secondary. So we're going to keep that in mind for later. Intelligence and wisdom, prioritize that. Psionics, for their sub build, have a disciplined focus option. We're going to want to go again along the lines of the telekinesis build. We kind of want to stick with that to synergize our creation here. So we're going to take the telekinetic focus. And as a result, we gain a couple of powers, far hand and forceful push. And far hand is what you use to move stuff. Forceful push is, well, like force push from some of the Jedi Knight games from Star Wars. Now, psychics are able to cast rituals in this edition, and rituals tend to not get used very much in my experience, which is kind of a shame because some of them are really freaking cool. Rituals are basically long-term spells that have either extended effects or very, very powerful effects. And for our telekinesis, what do I want to have? Let's see. For our first ritual, Well, since we're playing a controller role, I want to have something that's going to help us get kind of an edge on the battlefield. So let me see here. I want something that's going to be give us kind of a bonus. And you know, Traveler's Camouflage looks good. Helps boost stealth checks. That's really cool. And for our level 6 ritual, we can either choose Tensor's Floating Disc, which basically is kind of a floating carrying platform, or the Sending Ritual, which allows you to send messages through the mind's eye. And you can send it very, very far if you have a good Arcana check. So I think I'm going to choose the Sending Ritual. Alright, so now we go into choosing our race for this. And it starts off by giving you suggestions as to what race you might want to put. And it chooses those based on what their bonuses are. For instance, we have the Devas, which are an immortal race that have lived thousands of lives and have very, very long genetic memories that they can tap into. They get a bonus to wisdom by default, which, since that's our secondary stat, would be a definite good thing. And you can choose your other +2 either to charisma or intelligence, which, if we were to choose a Deva, we of course would choose intelligence. Then you have the elves, very much the Legolas kind of character. There are actually two subtypes, the wild elf and the wood elf there. And if we choose the elf, I'll go into that. Their main stat is dexterity, but you do also have the ability to choose either intelligence or wisdom for a +2. Probably not going to go into that with them because dexterity we may not need to prioritize. Githzerai, their main stat is wisdom. You can choose a +2 to dex or intelligence. They are a very kind of Zen-like race. According to their description, they seek inner harmony and self-mastery. So if you were playing a monk, having a Githzerai would not be a bad way to go, especially if you take the wisdom and dexterity. Hamadryads. Think kind of like the spirits, like the forest spirits from Greek mythology, the Dryads. That's what they basically are. Their base stat is wisdom, and you can choose a bonus in either charisma or intelligence, much like the Devas. By the way, these races also have bonuses to various different skills. Devas have bonuses to history and religion, elves to nature and perception, Githzerai to acrobatics and athletics. Again, good monk build. Diplomacy and nature for the Hamadryad. And they do also have other feats that come with them, but we'll go into that a little bit more once we get things built. Humans, of course, are your basic jack of all stats. And instead of giving a defined bonus in one stat and having you choose another, humans, you can choose +2 in only one stat. But you do get other bonuses as a result. You get a bonus feat at first level, you gain a bonus skill, you gain +1 to all defenses. You can either you can possibly choose another at will and have that. Other suggestions for this build. The Kalishtar. This is not a race I'm familiar with because I've never played it. Let me see what they're from. They are from Eberron. And Yeah, they are an Eberron race, which would explain why I'd never heard of them. Their base stat is Charisma, and you can choose either Intelligence or Wisdom. They have bonus to Insight, and then one other skill that you so choose. Um, and those appear to make good psionics because I'm looking at it right now. They have telepathy within themselves, so you don't need a telepathy build. But if you have one, this one would be a good little base. So they look to be good psionics. The Shatter Kai, kind of energy vampires, it seems. They are mostly focused on dex, so they can choose intelligence and wisdom. They're kind of similar to elves like that. Their bonuses are to acrobatics and stealth, which I don't think are going to be very important for what we're doing. Shard mines. They are kind of a sentient crystal construct race, though they may not actually be like constructs. In main intelligence, then you can choose wisdom or charisma, and they have bonuses to arcana and endurance. So tempting choice here. Let me see what else they can do here. They are living constructs, which they share that with races like the Warforged, which means they do not need to eat, breathe, drink, or sleep. They do not need to make endurance checks for starvation, thirst, or suffocation. And they are basically immortal. So, tempting choice. I kind of want to have. This is where you kind of have to think about what you want to do with your character. Now, we have a paladin and a cleric in our scenario here, so we don't really want to go with religion. And as tempting as it would be to go with one of the characters that would favor Arcana, like Shardmind. Actually, I think I am leaning toward the Kalishtar for this because they look to be very powerful psychics, and having a little bonus to the insight check, definitely a good thing. Insight's not used quite as often as perception, but if you have a good GM, they'll find a way to make your strengths work. And of course, there were other races there, but I was mostly going through the suggestions because those are going to be the ones that you want to look at first. Of course, if you want to use one of the other races, you can. I'm kind of partial to half elves myself. I like playing that character that's kind of caught between two worlds, mostly because I am a series of contradictions myself. So you do have various different options that you can add on to your characters sometimes, like sub-races in case of the elves, or an additional character bonus. Now, since we have a psionic here, I do like the fact that they have a bonus to insight. I'm not really going to be like super combat focused because they're going to be mostly focusing on controlling the battlefield. So I think I'm going to mainly have them be really powerful in skill checks and the like. So perception bonus. I'm going to take insight and perception. All right, and now here's where you can fill out the details for your character. You can describe them. You can give them an age. You can give them a gender. You can choose their alignment. In this case, I kind of want a neutral good character, and I want her to be well, I guess I kind of gave it away. I play female characters quite a bit. Don't tell me that says something about me. I tend to play them more often than male. I don't know why. I don't know what it says about me, and I'm not going to have you speculate. And Ganatari, that sounds like a pretty good name. Of course, if you want to put in your custom name, you can. I'm not going to fill out the rest of this stuff because that's mostly just for role-playing purposes anyway, and we're focusing mostly on the mechanics here. You can choose your deity. There's a wide variety, excuse me, of kind of characters and pantheons. Of course, they're all separated by their alignment. And let's see, what would be a good god for our Shatterkai lady to for our Kalishtar lady here. All right. Treat others as they deserve to be treated. If they haven't harmed you or yours, treat them kindly. Breathe the light of civilization to the darkness of the wilds. Place your trust in the community. I kind of like that, actually. So I think I'm going to make her a vassal of the sovereign host. Now, here's the part where you can choose additional role-playing options for your character. You can choose themes or backgrounds. In later levels, this is also where you can choose your Paragon Path and your Epic Destiny. Of course, we're not going to deal with those, but those are kind of ways that you can expand on what your character is doing to give them additional power and also provide more role-playing opportunities because they're clearly heading in a certain direction. For her background, what would be a good background for her? Let us see what we have. Trying to think here. I kind of want to do a background. I just can't decide what kind of background I want. And there are actually these backgrounds do kind of play into certain classes more than others. For instance, anything labeled primal will be into more of the primal classes, like say the druids or wardens. For this girl, I'm going to make her inquisitive. And this actually helps her out on her perception or stealth checks, the inquisitive shadowing. And you also gain additional utility powers as you grow, or have the option to gain new utility powers as you grow. Like, for instance, Inquisitive Intuition. Daily, free action. Trigger whenever you make an insight, perception, streetwise, or knowledge check and dislike the result. Resolve the check as if you had rolled a 20. Once per day, you can crit a check. And in most skill checks, that counts as 2 successes. So that can give you a great big bonus in a skill check. So, you know what? I think I like that. It's purely a role-playing decision, yes, but even so. Okay, so let's take a look at the backgrounds and choose one here. So she's an inquisitive scion. And where is she coming from? Let's see here. Of course, there are various different places that you can pick your backgrounds from. You can pick them from Eberron, you can pick them from Encounters, Forgotten Realms, Neverwinter, the Scales of War adventure path, which is a fun adventure path to go through. I know this from firsthand. And in fact, I think that I might want to go with that. Actually, I think I'm just going to pick from the general pool, because that's it's a large pool. Okay, let's see what I want to go through here. Of course, you can pick a wide variety of different ones. Um, right. Enlightened prodigy. As the child of a psychic race, it is unsurprising that you developed psionic power and chose to immerse yourself in its study. But your fascination eclipsed the interest of even your fellow psionic Kalishtar. With her inquisitive nature, this could be a good thing. The associated skills are healing and religion. You can choose one of them as your class skill or +2 to them. The problem is we already in our scenario we already have healers and religion people in the party, but it wouldn't be good to have religion as a backup just in case, um, just for her own fact-finding abilities. Now here we finally get to the part where we're building the stats. And of course you see that we have the primary stat here being intelligence and the secondary stat being wisdom. We can choose which one that we want to give a bonus to. Of course we have the default +2 to charisma because she is a Kalistar. Since intelligence is our primary, no reason to not give her that. You can do this you can pick the stats many different ways. You can pick a standard array. You can buy from a 20 point buy system, or you can roll 46 and keep the 3 best for each score. You know what? I'm going to roll the dice and see what we get. So, as you can see, our character is now house ruled because we rolled. So, 19 intelligence, 16 wisdom. So our wisdom's not far behind. 13 strength. Interesting. 10 charisma, so not the most appealing character. 9 constitution and 8 dex. And this one was actually rolled as an 8. Well, do I want to re-roll those? You know what? No. I'm going to keep those as they are. Yes, it's not great to have a dex and constitution modifier in the negatives, but she's not going to be getting much into the fray anyway, because that's not how controllers work. So now we have our skills that we can choose. We can choose 4 skills to train out of our class skills, which are Arcana, Bluff, Diplomacy, Dungeoneering, History, Insight, Intimidate, and Perception. Now, since we're really building up Insight and Perception, I definitely want to choose those. I kind of want to... Okay, with her inquisitive nature, I think History definitely needs to be one that we're going to train. And as for what else? I kind of want to make her very erudite. So I'm going to boost our flat diplomacy score here and give her a nice good bonus to diplomacy. So we have 5 diplomacy, 9 history, 10 insight, and 10 perception. And now we choose the powers. So you get 2 at wills and 1 encounter at first level. 1 daily at first level, rather. So they're suggesting Force Punch and Kinetic Trawl. Of course, if you want to choose other ones, you can from down here. They suggest ones that actually go with your build. And, you may notice that psionic classes have augments. They actually have power points that they can add in to their character, to their powers, to make them more powerful. For instance, this at will, if you pour in 1 power point, you can do 1d8 intelligence modifier force damage and push a number of squares either equal to your wisdom modifier, which is currently 3. So instead of pushing 1 square, you can push them 3 squares. If you augment with 2 power points, you add wisdom to your wisdom modifier to your damage, in addition to the intelligence modifier, and you knock the target prone plus pushing them all 1 square. So actually, that's a good choice, and I'm going to go with that. The other suggestion that adds is kinetic trawl. Base damage 1d8 force damage, and you pull the target 1 square. You can use this power unaugmented as a ranged basic attack. This is a fun little note to have, because powers like that means that you can use them for attacks of opportunity, or in the case of ones used as melee basic attacks, you can use them as in charges. If you do augment this power, the damage goes up to 1d10, and you pull the target wisdom modifier. If you augment with 2 power points, it's 2d10 force damage, and you pull the target modifier, so wisdom modifier. So yeah, I think that we'll choose that one as well. Daily power, the suggestion it has is telekinetic anchor, 3d6 intelligence modifier force damage, and each target takes 5 force damage the first time it moves on its next turn, basically bogging them down. I kind of want to look at what living missile does. Okay, if it hits, the target is immobilized, save ends. If it misses, the target is still slowed. While it is immobilized, you can use the living missile attack power once per round. Before the secondary attack, you must slide the primary target 10 squares. Any creature adjacent to the primary target any point during the slide becomes the secondary target. Intelligence versus reflex, 2d6. So basically, you can freeze them in place and then, boom! I don't know. I think I like this one better than telekinetic anchor. I think I'm going to go with living missile, because that's just so funny to me. Just boom, boom. All right. Now you also choose your feats. Of course, this class in race do get ritual caster by default, but you get 1 other feat unless you're human, in which case you get 2. Let's choose our feat. I apologize for this being a little slow to load here. No suggestions here. You can pretty much go through and choose as you want. Of course, it starts with the racial feats up at the top. Dual mind strength, +2 to damage rolls with psychic powers. Tier bonus. It's +2 at heroic tier. At epic tier, it goes up to +4. So those are very powerful ones to get early. All right, group mind link. You can communicate telepathy with your allies, telepathically with your allies. Quarry shield. You gain resistance to psychic damage equal to 5 + 1 half your level, rounded down if I remember correctly. Yeah, 1/2 rounded down, so it'd just be 5 at level 1. And telepathic sensitivity, like I said, at early levels, the ones that have the tier bonuses are really powerful to get. So I'm going to go ahead and go with dual mind strength for this build. And once you have your feats and powers selected, then you get to choose your weapon. And of course, by default, we have the Ritual Book, Traveler's Camouflage, and Sending. When you're building a character, you can usually will set the Add Gear for Me button, which automatically gives you level appropriate gear for starting out at whatever level you've created your character. Alternatively, you do have a certain amount of starting currency. You can choose to buy your gear yourself. For the sake of this, I'm just going to add gear and see what it gives us. Cloth armor. It just, gives you like base level armor. Grants +1 AC. Cloth armor does not give any kind of significant protection. So her AC is what it is. But it does give a little more padding at future levels. Let me just check and see what Kalishtar are proficient with wielding here really quickly, because, or actually what Scions are proficient with wearing, because I may... Okay, so they are only proficient with cloth armor. Okay. So that makes sense. An orb implement for casting things. Now, if you get into melee combat, you might want to get yourself some kind of melee weapon. And we have 69 gold pieces left. So I am going to get her some kind of melee weapon just to have in case things go sideways. So looking at weapons, we can only wield simple melee weapons. And so I think one-handed melee weapons. I kind of feel like this particular kind of character would have a spear, so that they can kind of stay at range and jab at people, but still be able to fend people off if they get in close. And spears are actually versatile weapons, so if they're not using their implement, they can actually take a minor action to put the implement away and hold the weapon with two hands, and that gives them an extra point of damage. It's not much, yes, but with magic, it will help out. So, just a simple 5 GP spear, And we still have some gold, so we can buy some more items. Magic items, of course, are like really... if you can afford them, they're really good to have, because they do boost you up a little bit. Let's see if we can get at least something for her neck. So magic items, neck slot item to at least boost some of her defenses. Sort by costs. We're not going to be getting anything with 64 gold, so yeah. Oh well. So yeah, give her a spear in one hand and the implement in the other, and there you go. Right. So yeah, we really couldn't buy anything, but you go into a battle, you're going to be getting money. So there we are, we're finished. So let's take a look and see what it is that we have made. Here in the character builder, you can actually choose a different style of sheets. You can choose the essential style sheet. You can choose the regular character builder sheet, which we're going to be using here. And we just got 5 pages to go through. So what we ended up with is Ganatari has an AC of 14, which not fantastic. 11 fortitude, 14 reflex, 15 will. Of course, keep in mind she's first level, so it's okay to suck. 2 power points, and to have at first level to boost things. I believe that's per encounter. All right. Oh, HP 21. Not great on hit points, but again, she's first level. She's supposed to suck. 5 healing surge value, 5. Healing surge is always a quarter of the HP rounded down. Surges per day, I believe, is chosen partially by Constitution, which is why we only have 5 of them right now. Initiative, -1. Meaning it is very likely, if they crit fail their initiative roll, that this girl could have an initiative of 0. Speed is 6, passive insight and perception are 20. Melee attack bonus +3, not great, but it's better than nothing. Alright. Only knows common language, so not really a cunning linguist. That was not meant to be a double entendre. Alright. All the feats that we have, racial features, Bastion of Mental Clarity gives a special power that we'll check here in a little bit. Gain augmentable at wills instead of encounter powers, psionic augmentation. Of course, we pick dual mind strength as our other feat, so we get a little damage. Here's the sheet. Here's the page that I tend to use the most often when I play 4E, because this is basically kind of your summary sheet, and it also has all of your power cards from here on down. So, of course, we have our melee basic attack here, the +3 versus AC spear. Goes up to 2d8 +1 damage at level 21, or whatever the strength modifier is. But right now, you're just basically just kind of, get away from me, get away from me, get away from me. Force Punch. Melee does not use weapon damage. Of course, that aforementioned living missile power, which is just so hilarious, I had to pick it. Bastion of Mental Clarity, Close Burst 5, which means it goes out in a 5 by 5 square out from you. You and each ally in the burst. When an enemy hits or misses you with a target against your will, each target gains a +4 power bonus to will until the end of your next turn. Nice. That's especially good to have around for later times when you're facing against enemies that can dominate you. The far hand power, range 5, one object that weighs 20 pounds or less and isn't carried by another creature. It's basically kind of similar to the mage hand spell. It's an encounter minor action, but you can sustain it as a minor, so you can basically use your minor first to pick it up, and then your minor to but it has to weigh 20 pounds or less. And it can't be wielded by another creature, so you can't, unfortunately, rip weapons out of people's hands. At least at level 1. Forceful Push, ranged 10. You slide as a free action. You slide the target 1 square, but not into hindering terrain. So basically you can tell them, back off! And then there's the aforementioned living missile attack. So, yeah, that's how you create a character in the 4E character builder. So if you play a lot of 4E on, say, Roll20, some GMs might ask for a D&D 4E, for a .dnd 4E file. This is where you create them, and you can upload them to places like the website iPlay4E. And be able to reference them. If you also have programs like PDF Lite where you can actually print as a PDF file, you can bring them down onto your computer and keep them around. I do, and in fact with my brand new dual monitor setup, now I can have my game in my main window and my character sheet on the other one. So I can take a look at it there. In fact, you see me looking over to the other screen, it's actually where I've got OBS running. So, yeah, that's how you build a character in the 4E character builder. Let me know what you think, if you thought this was insightful. And if I remember correctly, Wizards actually has a D&D Insider still up where you can use this, as you can plainly see. You do have to pay money for it. I believe it's $10 a month on their monthly plan, or you can pay like 27 every 3 months, and which I think is what I ultimately went with, and have access to a bunch of things, including issues of Dungeon and Dragon magazine, or the compendium, some adventures that they have you can download, and various different GM tools. There's quite a bit that you can do with the D&D Insider, even now that they have transitioned out of 4E into 5E. So, again, let me know what you think about this. If you thought that this was a nice little guide to using the D&D Insider Character Builder to create a character, I'd love to hear from you. So, give a comment down below. And if you're not already a casual fanatic, please subscribe to our channel. Next week will be the first fun 5e builds of 2016, and it's going to be 3d6 random number 2. So, until next time, I'm Jeremy. This has been Casual Mode, and later, y'all.